us today. We have a couple of real pros in the space for you today. It's going to be a real treat. After seeing the presentation yesterday, I can say you are all going to be blown away. And now that I've built you up so much, so today we have Allison Stelly. Allison is a nonprofit marketing and fundraising consultant. I believe she's been doing it for about 15 years now. She is quite a pro and a real guru in this space. And then we've also got Basie Coleman. Now, who here has heard of the Big Day of Giving? You've got Basie to thank for that.
Wow.
She's the marketing director for Sacramento Region Community Foundation, and she is the mind behind Big Day of Giving. So you are all in for a treat, and without further ado, I will hand it over to them.
Thank you. Okay, so to finish my sentence, I hope that throughout the presentation, you walk away with a couple of maybe golden nuggets back that you can apply to your work, even if your work is can be difficult to do if you're serving sensitive populations and that sort of thing. So thank you all for sharing. Allison, Basie, we'd like to introduce you to one additional person. It's this kitten. No, it's not. It's an imaginary lady named Marsha, who founded this imaginary organization called Mittens for Kittens. And we'll refer to Mittens for Kittens throughout the day just to give examples about ways you can use some of these marketing concepts. So Mittens for Kittens was founded on one cold winter day when Marsha discovered a litter of kittens. On her way to the local rescue, she noticed the mittens' paws were all frostbitten. So sad. But Marsha pulled out her knitting needles and whipped up the first pair of mittens for kittens. Since then, more than 100 local volunteers have knit 4,500 pairs of mittens for kittens saved by the local rescue. So, great fake organization. Here's the agenda for today. In the first part, our goal is really going to be to get folks to think about marketing strategy for your organization. We'll do a group breakout along those lines, have an actual break, and then in part 2, we're going to think about marketing plans and talk about marketing channels and content. We'll have another breakout, we'll have time for Q&A, and then we'll wrap up. So in part 1, again, we're going to be thinking about marketing strategy. I'm going to have a little bit of a soapbox moment where I just talk about why marketing is important in case we have any doubters or critics in the crowd. We'll talk about brand and position a little bit. Allison will overview effective marketing strategy, identifying audience personas, then I'll rapidly say a few things about rapid response communications. Okay, here's my soapbox. Turn the page. Does anyone, or has anyone ever heard something like this? I don't want to fund marketing, I want to fund impact. Anyone? Yeah, I've heard it. So here's what we need to say to those folks. Marketing is a principal business function for every business, including nonprofit businesses like ours. And so why do we need nonprofit marketing? Well, in simple terms, its purpose is to ensure people know your organization exists, what it offers, and how they can engage, whether that's by donating or volunteering or participating in services. So Mittens for Kittens markets its organization to ensure people know they provide warmth and love to stray kittens, and people can engage by volunteering to knit mittens or donating to support their work. Now, marketing has an amplifying power, right? When done effectively, it grows awareness, funds, volunteer support, client recruitment, and impact. Tell everyone who says, I want to find impact. Marketing grows impact aligned with your organization's goals. So also, I want to note the emphasis on goals here, because marketing just cannot exist in a vacuum. We aren't just marketing because it's fun. We're marketing to achieve our organization's goals and advance our mission in the community. So here are Mittens for Kittens goals. They want to provide 300 pairs of mittens to kittens served by the local rescue. They want to engage 25 volunteer knitters at 4 quarterly knitting days. And they want to increase unrestricted donations to $30,000 over the next 3 years. So they've got program, volunteer, and fundraising goals. Now the question is, what are your organization's goals? It's going to be key for you to think about throughout the day. Allison's going to talk about it a little later on because we're going to move on quickly. But
do you want to have them go ahead and pull out those packets and have while you're talking in this part?
Yeah.
The
marketing strategy. Blank marketing strategy.
Yeah, so you have two of these in your, one has mittens for kittens and one is blank. So pull out the blank one and you can start taking notes as you're going about as things come up in that relevant section.
Yeah. Do you think about what your marketing is trying to achieve, what your organization's goals are throughout the day? So here's the marketing process. Here's how marketing happens. And for many of you, this will be old hat, but please bear with me. First, you discover what people want or need. And at a fundamental level, your organizations exist because you recognize a need in the community that people and you want to address. So Mittens for Kittens supporters, for example, want to live in a community where feline friends feel safe and warm, and they want to feel like they're part of the solution too. Then you tell those folks it's available. Mittens for Kittens marketing tells people it's possible to create that world, especially with their help. Then you provide it. Mittens for Kittens volunteers provided the service. They knit many, many mittens for many, many kittens. And finally, and very important at nonprofits, you share what was accomplished. And this last step is super critical in nonprofit marketing. Any thoughts why? Any ideas why? Trust. Yeah, oh my God, okay, yeah. It builds trust. You're talking to people, right? And you want to make sure that they come back. They know what was accomplished because they got involved in your organization, and you're doing good work in the community. You want to bring them along. So you're building trust. And the way that Mittens for Kittens does that is by sharing stories of impact in their annual reports. Every day on social media, or not every day, don't feel overwhelmed. Occasionally on social media, regularly on social media, and press releases, and email updates on their website, all over the place. So for the most part, you rinse and repeat these steps over and over again, and that's how you market your organization. Does that seem sensible, folks? Okay. So now we're going to get to the meat of things, and part of our jobs when talking about organizations or marketing our organizations is to differentiate them from other organizations in the community. What makes your nonprofit, your organization, different from other groups that are doing potentially similar work? And so a common way to do that is to have a very clear position. And a position is your organization's unique impact and what sets it apart from every other nonprofit in the community. So this is sometimes called like your competitive edge or your unique value proposition. So when we build a marketing plan or marketing strategy with our unique position in mind, our efforts will be more consistent, they will be stronger, and they will be significantly less likely to confuse people in the community. So you're really creating clarity for the community when you have clarity in your mind what your position is. So folks, do that by creating a position statement. And this is one of the fields on the sheet you just pulled out. Here's Mittens for Kittens statement, for example. We are the only nonprofit in El Dorado County that marshals volunteers to knit mittens that provide warmth and love for stray kittens. The point is no other organization can say that, right? And a mission statement can be different than a position statement. They're two separate things. And I'll say why. Because a position statement can be a little boastful. It can brag a little bit. You're trying to pump yourself up. This is what we're doing different and better than other organizations. This is why we exist. Whereas a mission statement is a little more public facing. You probably don't want to be too braggy in a mission statement. A position statement is much more internal. So I'm going to ask you all to take a couple minutes to jot down what you think your position statement is on the worksheet that we've provided. If you already have one, great. Can it be refined? If you don't yet have a mission or a position statement, sorry, consider these prompts. What's the big idea about what you do, why you do it, how it's unique and why it matters? And you can consider things like where you work, or your methods, how are those different than other organizations? Or your specific goal, how is that different than other organizations in the community? Couple minutes. feel like they've got maybe the beginnings of a good position statement going? Great. Another fundamental marketing element that will help your organization stand out in the crowd is your brand. Let's see, here we go. Brand, a nice strong brand conveys a clear and consistent image of your organization, exemplifying qualities that make it unique, and tell people what they can expect by engaging with your organization. So when I think of brand, what comes to mind for me first is like a logo, part of a brand. Does anyone else have other ideas about what can be included under the term brand? Like, what is your marketing's brand? What does it consist of?
About like, logos, but also my supervisors are strict about like colors and fonts things we use whenever we're putting any kind of messaging out that's not just like a document.
Right.
So making sure that it's really consistent.
Yeah.
Trust.
Agreed, exactly. So you mentioned color palette, like fonts, yes, those are good visual elements of a brand. Exactly. Any other notes? That's what I think of as well.
I think sometimes your staff can be a face, can be a brand as well.
Yeah, we're certainly representatives out in the community. Like anytime someone on our staff sends an email that's a little bit like not well thought through, I always think like, oh no, I spend so much time like trying to build the brand, build the trust. You send a bad email and you've ruined my life. But there are other elements of brand too. It can be textual or audible, like what's your tone of voice that you use. This speaks to that email example, what tone of voice. My staff is very nice people. It could be like what kind of music you play at an event. I was saying yesterday that if El Dorado Community Foundation started like playing Metallica at this event, you might be like, that's not on brand. Or maybe it is. It can also be tactile, like the type of...
I don't know what you're talking about. It fit right in my brain.
Okay. We'll ask Chris about that. It can also be like the kind of paper you use when you mail out a printed piece. How does that feel? How does the person who's receiving that feel when they rub their fingers against it, and what kind of idea about your brand do they get? So that's another element of brand. And this goes without saying, but when we reflect our brands throughout our marketing, we present a consistent and cohesive message about our organizations. And when we do this well, people know what they can expect from us, and that's important. So here is Mentions for Kitchen brand. Our brand personality is warm and inviting, just like our mittens. The colors used in our logo and throughout our communications reflect the vibrant joy we find in knitting mittens and community. We always aim for a cheerful and optimistic tone of voice. That's just a general brand statement. I'll read you the Sacramento Region Community Foundation's brand statement because I think it's kind of funny. And this is our logo, if folks don't know. So kind of like this sparking brand. So our brand personality is dynamic and inviting, and the way we articulate and deliver our messaging is friendly and considerate. Okay, then this logo represents the impact of the good work the foundation does by illustrating the concept of being a catalyst for change in the community. The mark starts with a spark that radiates out of a central point with beams of sunlight that travel in all different directions, providing light and energy and vibrancy to the region's communities and nonprofits. So that could be your brand statement as well. It can be a little goofy, but it's just about embodying what you want people to see or feel when they encounter your brand. So let's take a moment to think about your brand. What does your brand convey to folks? Oh gosh, I'll give another quick example. So at the foundation, I manage two brands. We have the Sacramento Region Community Foundations on the right. That's one of our magazines. And on the left is Big Day of Giving, which is another brand or a sub-brand. And we treat them differently. We do that deliberately. So the foundation has like a tasteful serif font, which conveys like tradition and stability. And Big Day of Giving is like, whoa, exclamation points everywhere, and lots of colors and lots of excitement because it's trying to convey something else to the community. So take a couple of moments and think about what your brand conveys.
Yeah, if I'm stuck with brand, I'll just write a few adjectives about my organization, or like, yeah, just like, we're whimsical, or we're serious, or what's our tone like if you're feeling like, I don't know where to start, just, you know,
Yeah.
you can't go wrong with
We're
just,
happy, or we're angry.
yeah.
It could be like wildly different kind of things.
I noticed even with colors, like before our drop-in center, we would hand out outreach cards that were in red, and we thought it was a good idea because it would attract attention, but when you do the color wheel, red is like an angry, violent color.
Yeah.
And so we changed it all to a light blue.
Oh yeah, the color theory you gotta like kind of think about. Yeah. All right, well, there'll be more time to think about brand as we do our group breakouts, but now that you all have a very solid understanding of what makes your organization unique and how you uniquely portray it in the community, we will turn to developing marketing strategy. So I'll hand it off to Allison.
Get into it. One thing that I was thinking about this morning too, when you mentioned that you were an AmeriCorps member, was an organization that I worked for, often had AmeriCorps doing all of the marketing, and so it switches every year, right? There's no consistency, and so one project that we did was have our AmeriCorps member make a brand guide. So these kind of things, this kind of strategy, this like big stuff, it's work. You have to do a little bit of work and investment up front, but it serves then to give you capacity, right? And like to have a roadmap you can hand over to the next person is very useful. If you're all volunteer, like some of you are, yeah, I think it's very helpful. So the first thing I wanted to just mention was what is the difference between a strategy and a plan? Sometimes even we use those interchangeably, but when we talk about strategy in part one, like right now, we're really getting into the bigger, the long term. Your org strategy is what, 3 years, maybe 5 years, maybe 25 years, I don't know. So we're thinking about outcome, we're really long term, versus the plan. The plan could be for one campaign for 3 months or a year. A plan's shorter, tactical, you know, very specific. So just keep that in mind. We're doing strategy now, plan later. So how do we get from what we just talked about, purpose, into our strategy? Is I like to use the GHOST method. There's other ways out there too, but we're going to use this one today. The GHOST method, G-O-S-T. I don't have a laser pointer. No, it's all good. Goal is your broad desired outcome. Objectives, specific outcomes to define that goal. We're going to make it SMART. Strategies, approach to achieve that objective. Tactics, getting into a little bit more specific. So right now we're going to kind of stay up in the top. Oh, here we go. Okay, so first up is goal, the broad desired outcome. So this was one that Mittens for Kittens had, right, as one of their organizational goals. It also works very well as a marketing goal. So we're going to talk about it as a marketing goal. Their marketing goal is to raise more money. Who else has that as their goal? Raise more money. Everyone. So I was like, that's a good one. Is this a SMART objective? Have you all heard of a SMART objective? Yes. It's not. It's very vague. So a SMART objective, it's specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, it's relevant, it's time limited. To make the goal into an objective, we go from raise more money, a little vague, increase unrestricted donations to 30,000 over the next 3 years. That's specific. We're saying more specifically than just raise more money. It's what kind of money we want to increase unrestricted donations. It's measurable, right? How much? It's when. That's the time limited. Attainable is only something that you and maybe your board can figure out, but they decided it is. convenient for me. Relevant, absolutely, because their goal, it connects back to their org goals of, making more mittens for kittens. And so there we go. Got our goal at the top, got our objective. We just, basically objective is the same as the goal, we just made it smart. There could be situations where your goal has more than one objective, but to keep it simple, we're gonna stick with one-to-one. A strategy is how do you achieve that objective? It's the approach to achieve the objective. And there are, I don't know, call it some ways we could possibly raise money. What do you do to raise money?
Dancing with the Tall Stars.
Amazing. Spaghetti night. We throw an event. That's one way. Throw an event. That's a strategy. Direct mail. You're like, I'm gonna do direct mail appeal. I'm gonna email people. I'm gonna do social media campaign. I'm gonna do a walkathon. I'm gonna cultivate major donors. That's one strategy for raising money. How do you decide when you're like, we gotta raise more money? How do we do it? You gotta think strategically. You gotta analyze what you already know, what you don't know. And to do that, we're gonna talk about SWOT analysis. Who's done one? Woo! Yeah, refresher for some, maybe new for others. It's, I always start with the SWOT analysis. Stands for strengths, upper left. Upper left. These are the great questions to ask when you're like, what are our strengths? Sometimes you're like, I don't know. Strengths that I often look at, what advantages do you have in the marketplace? Do you do this, like, mission? Your mission is a strength. Your work is a strength. You all are doing amazing work in this community. That is number one, a strength. If it's unique, that's a strength. What resources do you have at your disposal? You have talented staff. You have hopefully a dedicated board. Or that might be a weakness, that maybe you're lacking in that. So that's really where you think about, but I might put down, like, we have a great website. It's full of good content. We already have good stories. I know, like whatever you think your strengths are. Your weaknesses, the opposite. Maybe you don't have very much money to put towards marketing, or you don't have the staff in place. Opportunities, what's out there where we can grow, or what we can grab on. And threats are things that I say, threats are the things that you really can't control at all. And neither are opportunities. Like, opportunities are kind of outside of your control, but it's the good stuff. Threats are the things that outside. So Mittens for Kittens did their little SWOT analysis. And they were like, cool, here are our strengths. We are unique, no one else is doing this. We have a very strong brand, everyone knows who we are. We have a core group of volunteers, our staff and board are super passionate. And we have a great website and social presence. Like, our followers like what we're doing. Yeah, it's great. They look like they're super strong. But they have a very small donor pool. They're not raising very much money. They have like 1 or 2 really invested donors, and that's not a great position to be in. They have no dedicated marketing staff, so that's a weakness. And they have a tiny budget. The opportunity that when they're thinking about it, they're like, there's this money out there that we're not getting, untapped donor dollars. And they realized no one has covered us in the media, like, ever, and we're this very unique, interesting organization. So there's a story out there in the earned media. So those were opportunities, and this was quick. The ED was like, on the back of a napkin, right? It was just like, okay. And then threats. These two always go whenever I think about a threat. We always have an uncertain economy, can't control what donors are gonna do, and there's always a changing social media landscape. So, anybody love an algorithm? Yeah, no. So that's what they decided. So they picked the strategy. They're like, I think we're gonna focus on attracting new donors. We don't have very many, we need to get some new ones. So that's one strategy. They probably have more than one strategy, but we're gonna talk about one. So, but when you're working on yours, you're probably gonna have 2 or 3 strategies for your goal. When creating your actual ghost. The final step is tactics. These are the specific actions you're gonna take towards your strategies. So they decided on 3 tactics. Again, they look back at their SWOT. They know they have an appealing, unique news angle, so they're gonna focus heavily on getting stories in the news. They think that that is gonna lead into building awareness, making people aware, like number 1, that you're there. They already have an active social media, right? So that's a strength. So they're like, we're going to focus on turning our followers into donors. Campaign around that. And what was the third one? Is a special event. They're like, that's a great way to find new people. We're going to do that. So as you build your ghost, you're probably going to have more than one goal, multiple strategies, multiple tactics. And that can seem like a lot, but that's where the worksheet comes in handy to keep it all straight for you. And in part 2, we're going to dive into turning that, all this higher level, into action. But before we do that, we'll get into it in the breakout. But first, I do want to talk about the marketing persona. And this comes back to, Macy, you talked about the first step in the process of marketing is discovering what people want or need. And understanding your audience. I made a note. I was like, oh yeah, that's how. Connection. There's the connection between what she said and what I said. So the marketing persona, is this a familiar term to anybody? Have you ever made an audience persona? What is it? It is a fictional character that represents a slice of your audience, a particular segment. Maybe it is one person. You're like, this is an imaginary person I've created who is my ideal audience. Does anyone remember in like college composition writing class where they would say, think of your ideal reader? You're not writing for everyone. I was an English major, so like, you're not writing for everyone. You're writing for one person. Appeal to that one person, and your work will be stronger. And why? It helps to hone your efforts. It helps to save time and money. And you run everything through this filter. So like, when you're building your marketing persona, you're going to include things like this. You're going to include the demographics. Are they a woman between 32 and 47? Are they in this generation? And what are the characteristics of that generation on average? A little stereotypy, right? But it's to help you kind of like hone your efforts. You're looking at affinity and activity that they're already interacting with. How are they interacting with your organization? And psychographics is beyond demographics. That's what do they care about? What do they like? What motivates them? What do they want out of life? And what do they want out of you and out of your organization? And I like to give them a name. So we think about Melanie Millennial, who's like, there's a demographic. There's a who's Melanie? Melanie likes, Melanie likes her avocado toast. And also chicken and waffles. Melanie things, what does she care about? Like, you can look up the data of like, what does this generation, what does XYZ generation care about? How do they want to connect to your organization? There's lots of data out there, data points. So, but understanding first, basically, rather than trying to appeal to everyone, we all are like, who's our audience? Organizations, every organization I work with is like, everyone. Everyone's my audience. And I was watching, I just showed anybody see American Auto? Did you watch the show? Okay, it's hilarious. It's like a Justin Spencer show, the Office guy. So it's one of those workplace comedies. And they're making cars, but it's very bad. This car they're selling is a terrible car. And they're trying to pitch it to this auto dealerships. They're making a slide deck, but they keep going like, well, we've alienated middle America, so we have to put the guy in camo. But now Portland is gonna be really upset, so now we have to put the girl back in flannel, and now this, and like, the ad ends up being a smiley face emoticon. Like a smiley face emoticon, that's the ad. And like, that is what happens when you don't know who your audience is. And if they had really thought about who wants to buy this car and honed in on who wants to buy the car. So when you're like, if what you're wanting is, if your marketing is appealing to raise money, if you're looking, like understanding if you're looking to raise money or if you're looking to attract, program participants, who are you looking to appeal to? Your marketing is going to be more successful. So find out what you already know. Look through your databases. How well do you understand your current audience? And what don't you know? What do you need to find out? I also like to think about, is the audience you have the audience that you want? Maybe you actually need a whole different audience in order to achieve your goal. You can do a bit of a listening tour. You can have interviews with your existing folks. You can send out a survey to collect, lots of information quickly, a focus group, or you can talk to people who are in the new audience. And these are some questions that you can ask those folks who are good to understand. I think it's especially great to understand how and where do they donate. So the folks like who are already in your audience, for example, if that's the audience you're building this persona, how are they reaching you? How do they want to engage with you? Just get a good understanding of that. And what action do you want them to take? So that call to action, what do you want out of all of this? Those are the questions you're going to ask yourself. So, I'm going to turn it back over to Macy, and we will dive into that plan at the breakout.
Yeah, this is like a, and oh, by the way, let's also talk about this quickly.
Yes.
Because a rapid response communications plan can really help you build that trust in the community that we were talking about earlier. The time to develop one is not in the middle of a crisis. So let's talk about it right now. Rapid response communications plan is a series of steps that your organization can follow when an unexpected event, and there are lots of unexpected events, requires a quick shift in your communication. So you think of a tragedy in the community or a disaster that means, okay, we've got to stop doing this and we need to move in this direction now. So without a plan, your response to unexpected events might be slow. It might be marked by misinformation and confusion, and it might be poorly messaged and unhelpful. Those are all bad things. You don't want that. This can cause harm in your communities, and it can degrade that trust that people have in your organization. On the other hand, with the plan, your rapid response can have positive impacts. You can quickly react. You can provide crucial information to audiences looking for services or support. And you can maintain your organization's overall stability and sense of trust in the community. So all good things. Having a plan in place is key, and it doesn't need to be complicated. Here is Mittens for Kittens Rapid Response Plan. They identified a rapid response team. They created a process to determine, will a response be appropriate? It's not always. Sometimes your voice is not needed. What will they say if they decide to say something, and to whom, and where will they say it? What issues can they anticipate and mitigate? If, for example, you're going to upset the folks in Portland, how can you know that that's going to happen and be prepared to respond? They practiced the response plan when the opportunities arise, and they collected examples from other organizations that they admired or thought responded well. So they have a library of messages they can refer to should they need to craft their own messaging. This mirrors what we do at the Sacramento Region Community Foundation. Chris very nicely printed out a template that's included in your packets that you can use to, when you go back to your organization, to guide the crafting of your own rapid response communications plan. Just so you have something handy, a process ready, if you should ever need to use it, and I hope you don't. I hope no one ever does. All right, so now we are here for the group breakout.
So as we move into part two, one of the first things we're going to talk about is the marketing funnel. We're going to talk about channels and tactics. Stacey will really go in great depth on channels and tactics. And then we'll talk a little at the end about beginning to plan your content, what kind of content you're going to use and where. So the first part of this, has anyone ever heard of the marketing funnel, or journey, it's sometimes called? Well, give me a I know you have. Well, think of your most loyal volunteer. Did they start out showing up to everything that you have, or did they maybe like meet you at one event and they signed up for they got their name on a list and then they got to know you slowly, right? Same with your donors. It's usually they start out giving a small gift, they come in. So it's the same with the marketing. I like journey because in a lot of salesy, they use funnel. They're like, we put people in and out comes money at the end. And I'm like, well, I don't want to be that transactional. I want to think about we're going on a journey with our folks. So the first step in the marketing journey is awareness. They have to become aware either that you exist or what your new program is, whatever you're marketing, right? So even people who know you already might come back around to a new awareness. So you got awareness. You got consideration. That's the biggest phase of the funnel. People are really they've already learned about you. They're sticking around now. They're reading your webpage. They're looking at the email. They're clicking like on that post. They're like, they're in that consideration there. And they might hang out there for a really long time. They might circle around and around until conversion. That's the action you're wanting them to take. And what's the point of this? Because thinking about the path that your audience members take through your channels is helpful in making them more effective. So you think about like a new donor campaign. I first have to make them aware that I exist as an organization, so brand new donors. I also have to make them aware that I need donations. That's not always obvious. So I run a social media ad that is just letting them know we exist, and they can click here to learn more about us. I am not asking them for money. They're not ready to give me money. That's not going to convert them. They're going to see the ad and go on with their day, and I'm not going to engage them anymore. So I want them to learn more. I want them to click to learn more. I want them to go maybe to my website. Maybe I want them to go to a form to sign up to get on my email list. Those are all things that I want. I'm not asking them to donate. I'm asking them to come and learn about me, inviting them into conversation. I'm bringing them into consideration. And from there, I might then offer them the option to donate with a clear call to action once I've given them like my good copy, good convincing, persuasive, told all the good stories. So yeah, that's one kind of moving through the funnel. Oh, that's you.
That's me. Yeah, and I want to share that I'm a real nerd about this stuff. So I have my marketing plan with me always. I've got my my marketing funnel. I call it a funnel. All called out here, and I spell out in each section of the funnel where these people are encountering me and the messages I'm telling folks along their journey. So
She brings it to happy hour. It's like,
I got my SWOT analysis.
yeah,
on
she's
another
real
page. So this is something I do really nerd out about marketing channels. We've heard so many of them mentioned. I'm gonna kind of talk about 3 different buckets that they're often categorized into, and then go through a little bit in depth about each of the buckets and some of the major channels assigned to those buckets. But I know we have a lot of good expertise in the room too, so I'm hoping that after we kind of talk about, oh, here's a website, oh, here's email, we get some great tips from people or questions from people, because there's a lot of great, let's also pull this out marketing plan.
Have this handy as Lacey begins talking about the different channels, so you can start jotting down notes for yourself.
Yeah. All right, so let's get going. The marketing channels are traditionally categorized into 3 different buckets, and understanding these categories can help you use their strengths to your advantage to reach your goals and move audiences through the funnel, through the journey. So briefly, those channels are owned. Those are the places you create and control, and you have the absolute most control over the content and the messaging and the way these look. So you think about your website, your organic social media, your pages, your social media pages, and print collateral, or what you mail out to folks. Next channel is earned. These are channels where others spread information about you, news coverage, review sites, word of mouth, great earned channels. And then paid, and these are channels that most people think of when you hear the word advertising. You're buying a commercial on TV, you're putting an ad in the newspaper. Yeah, social media ads, digital ads, also in the paid bucket. So in an ideal world with unlimited staff and budget, we'd all be like living in all of these buckets. But most of the time, we're probably going to be focused on our own channels. And that's great, because these are the channels we nurture and deepen relationships with people. We move them from awareness to consideration to conversion. And so what we want to do whenever someone finds us on earned and paid is to move them into owned. We want everyone to see, to like go to our social media pages, go to our website, sign up for our email list. That's the strategy. So first we'll talk about owned channels, and those are the ones you create and control. Here are some common digital owned channels, as well as a few offline owned channels. Again, these are the places where we tell our stories. We steward our audiences to take actions we define and deepen their engagement with our work. Now, the strengths of these channels are that we dictate the content and messaging, right? Totally in our control. The weakness is that they rely heavily on regular maintenance, which can be time consuming. And new audience reach can be limited because folks aren't going to stumble across your own channels just on accident, likely. If they don't know about you already, they aren't going to find this great messaging you're creating. So when communicating on these channels, we should consistently share content that's valuable to our audiences, the personas we've just identified, the motivations we've just identified. We want our communications to be on brand and often refreshed or evergreen. If you have outdated information, you're confusing folks, and that's not on brand. No one wants to have outdated information. And doing this, again, increases credibility and the likelihood that people will take the actions you would like them to, like make a donation or volunteer. It's good to track performance on these channels where possible. It's especially possible on digital platforms where built-in tools make it easy to get a good sense of what people are responding to and what people are not. If you find something performs well, you should do more of it. So a little qualifier, I'm talking a lot about digital spaces, but digital marketing is not going to replace the in-person events you're hosting or the mailed pieces you're doing. We should all continue to do that, especially if we know that speaks best to the audiences we're trying to reach. But we'll talk a little bit about 3 digital channels now. So the first is website. Does everyone have a website? I guess, does someone not have a website? Okay, great. Websites are hubs, as you all know, where you share what you do and how folks can get involved. Be sure to add a donate button or whatever your main conversion point is for folks. Write clear on the website and get an email registration form in places that are easy to find for people so they can stay connected to your work. You should really aim for a simple and attractive user experience that's mobile friendly. A little bit of data here. In 2022, the most traffic to nonprofit websites came from users on mobile devices. So most people are reaching most nonprofit websites on their mobile devices like a phone or a tablet. But most online donations were made on desktop computers, so you want to make sure that your website translates well between desktop and mobile, like El Dorado Community Foundation's does. A little hat tip there. And I also, so not only does the El Dorado Community Foundation work on a desktop and on a mobile device, they also have done a great job about making their website accessible by adding this accessibility widget. So if you have the opportunity to think about how does my website appear for people who are low vision, for example, look into an accessibility widget. And finally, just add your URL everywhere. Again, we're trying to get people to the website. Next, email. The 2 most common marketing emails for nonprofits are e-newsletters or e-updates and fundraising appeals. Do folks do e-newsletters? What? Fundraising appeals via email? Fundraising appeals? Okay, great. So a strong program helps you nurture relationships and drive action. And as a proof point, here's another data point. Email is the tool that donors report most inspired their giving in 2022. That's higher than social media, higher than website, higher than any print piece. But the emails you send don't have to be overcomplicated or over-designed. In fact, especially because most email is read on mobile devices, it's best if there's not too much going on. If you're sending an e-newsletter, like the 2 on the far right here, it's best practice to share, aim to share 1 to 4 stories. If you're sending a fundraising appeal, like this email from Food Literacy Center in the middle, aim to share 1 story. You want to be sure your content is relevant to the audiences you're emailing. If you don't already, consider segmenting your list so people with different relationships to your organization get messaging oriented to them. Yes?
How do you build an email database?
Oh, there's so many great ways to collect emails, and maybe folks have additional ideas. Are you hosting in person?
I'm not talking volunteers, I'm talking donors.
Donors, right?
How do you?
Volunteers or donors?
Well, okay.
I got, yeah, that's true.
Do you have a current list of donors?
I do. I have 1 database with mailing addresses and
Okay.
1 database with email addresses. These are already people that are donating to us. How do you reach out to people that are not? How do you get emails of people? Do people sell this list or?
So you can buy lists.
You can.
I wouldn't advise it as far as especially in this town, it's a small town, small area. You should think about potential donors, you wanna make sure that they opt in, like that they want to be on your list. You don't wanna just like collect an email at an event and then sign them up. But definitely, I would say your volunteers potentially, you could put them in a potential donor list and ask them about that, are you receiving emails from you?
On your website too, you can have like a pop-up or something on the bottom where it says like sign up for our newsletters as well. It's like, it's pretty easy to get like a widget or something on the bottom of your email or a pop-up. Yeah, the idea is that you want to collect emails from everyone who's going to receive your messages, and then think about that marketing funnel, the marketing journey. You're getting people who are initially considering you, they're reading your emails, and then you include a donate button, or you include an ask, you email them
They're at an event
once in a while.
or they're at a booth and they wanna sign up and.
You can offer something for free online that they download, that they enter their email address to download something of relevance to their, you know, an article or something else interesting, or they want to spin the wheel at an event. That's been one of my favorite ways, is you get a little tote bag or a squishy thing, or or social media. You can run email collection ads that way on social media.
Yeah, a lot of like sign our petition is a way to collect people's emails via social media ads. But you should, I guess the idea is that you're collecting every email of anyone who wants to receive your messaging, and then you're stewarding them into donorship, into becoming a donor through your very successful email outreach over time. You can buy donor lists, but it's not effective. It's wasted money.
It makes sense for some.
Yeah.
I was gonna also add, anytime we do any sort of event or something that someone signs up for, like we always automatically put them in our email database, but we put the little disclaimer at the bottom that's like if you are opting in to emails, you can opt out anytime. So anytime anyone has any kind of online correspondence with us, we pretty much always add them to our database.
And it has to.
Yeah,
At the
like
bottom.
in any way, but yeah, we always try to put the disclaimer so that we don't get in trouble for that.
Yeah.
With older communities though, I have found it is better to have the button where they can click that they're opting in. If you automatically opt them in and it upsets them, they're gonna block you or spam you, and that can make a big problem for your email addresses.
They'll press the wrong ones.
Yeah, so I mean, I played on the safe side and it always have an opt-in button, because once you lose someone,
Yeah, you want folks to tell, you don't want to send your messages to people who don't want to receive them. So it's best to have a list filled with people who are like, yeah, I want to get this message. So
Can I make a very quick point about that? Was like, also it's such a great point with the opt-in. So the algorithms are harvesting all of this too. So like Gmail, for example, Gmail might decide that you're spam. And so if not enough people are opening and reading your stuff, even if they're not marking you as spam, that's one of the ways.
Right.
So that's why you do want to, going with an opt-in approach is often a little bit more strategic. I am not going to argue the ethics of it. Like, yes, people absolutely can opt out. I think that makes sense. But if you have too many people who aren't opening, just be careful about that. So watch your open rates. And one way to help to protect that is to do an opt-in only situation.
Another suggestion would be to create a media list if you don't already have one. And in our town, I strongly advocate making a community media list. It's not just about who's the newspaper and who's the radio. It's about who's in the city council, who are your board of supervisors. So creating kind of a list of community and media folks, and then making that more information that's media, like your press release or your updates. And then that way you can connect with those people, and that will also continue to help you grow too.
yeah, like a list of influentials. Just get them their messaging. Okay, I love this conversation about email. I have a couple more points, but then let's keep talking about it. So when you think about the frequency of your contact, as just a benchmark note, most nonprofits that send regular e-newsletters aim to send them monthly. Is that about what we're doing here?
Yeah.
No, we just
Quarterly.
quarterly? Okay. And then most nonprofits that send fundraising appeals via email aim to send them quarterly. We're doing more frequently, less frequently? About that? Okay. I've seen recommendations that you could try sending it a little more if you have good open rates or good click-through rates especially. But monthly, quarterly seems to be about standard. And then finally, we've done a lot of discussing about this. Always seek to grow your email contacts via opt-in forms. There's one here from the folks at All About Equine Animal Rescue. When you go to their website, pops right up. You're opting in to receive messaging from them. Email marketing services like MailChimp, I've heard a couple folks use MailChimp, Constant Contact, can make this easy. They provide forms like that. That also helps you ensure you don't violate spam laws, as we've mentioned, and you can track the performance of your emails. It also makes segmenting and personalizing your messages easier. Like Food Literacy Center sent this message to Linda. It says, "Dear Linda," which is another way to increase your open rates. And they can also suggest or test subject lines for you. So do most folks use a email platform? Yeah, okay, good. Any other questions or thoughts about email marketing for nonprofits immediately?
I think on your website, you do have to have a place to contact you as well. And then you also have people who donate, make sure you have, if you do the paper donation, make sure you have email in there as one of your contact things. I know it seems silly, but.
Yeah, collect emails.
Collect everything you possibly can about them, maybe not their firstborn child and their social security number, but.
So, yeah.
Sorry, I get really passionate about this because I just want to tell the story, but I had a family member pass away, and she and her father before her had subscribed to a lot of donation, or donated. He donated like $5 and suddenly got on every list possible, just didn't uncheck the "don't sell my name." So I had to unsubscribe to 180 different nonprofits, and I'm still going. It's insane. But I've learned so much about how people try to capture your information, how they steal their information, how to have little check boxes that say "don't sell me." And it's just.
Yeah.
We are flooded with information, and so just the more you can be unique.
That's true.
That's true. All right, next, social media. Who uses social media? Yeah, our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok. Oh gosh, no. Also heard a lot of people use Nextdoor. Yeah, we did a little bit. A little bit, yeah. And also Reddit. Some folks.
Nobody's social on Reddit.
Nobody's social. Okay.
Social.
Is there like a Reddit community in it? Like a Reddit?
People
you know,
follow Reddit for
subreddit?
the comments.
Okay. It's a pretty active Sacramento way, so, you know. So folks use social media to promote awareness, build community, inspire action, and share impact. Allison will say more about content in a moment. Content's really key with social media, right? But you should aim to develop content that encourages engagement, likes, clicks, shares, because that will please the algorithm. You're going to increase your reach. More people will see your messaging, and you don't have to pay for it. On average, Facebook posts reach 53 users for every 1,000 followers a nonprofit has. Instagram posts reach 65, and Twitter posts reach 47. So it's pretty abysmal. Organic social media is probably not going to solve all of your problems. But the more interesting your content, the more engagement they get, the better your reach has a chance to be. You should add links directing people to your social media wherever you can. This is Animal Outreach of the Motherlodes, the bottom of their website there, and they have their social media links right next to a link to join their email list, which you were suggesting. So they're doing everything right. So quick additional notes. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are the most commonly used platforms for nonprofits, and Instagram grew at the fastest rate last year. You don't have to be on every social media platform. You should choose the ones where your audiences are and where you have time to post and engage. If you are on Facebook and Instagram, consider enrolling in their donation tools. Is everyone enrolled in the donations tools? Encourage your team to collect relevant content for you to share. So if you are the marketing person, you're probably already saying, like, please give me content, tell me the impact we're making in the community. If you aren't the marketing person on your team, you might be hearing, from them that same request. Please help your marketing folks out, give them content, give them stories. And also urge everyone on your staff, if they're comfortable, to share your posts with their networks that also grows reach. Finally, it's a nice thing to tag your partners when you can, and if they tag you, that also grows reach. We're just all about growing reach here. Any other tips that folks have or questions folks have about organic social media?
Something that's new on Instagram is adding a collaborator. Were you
That's
gonna say
what I was
that?
gonna say, yeah.
So what's really cool is like instead of just tagging someone and it's on your feed only, if you were to add a collaborator, you can only add one. It will also go on their feed too.
Okay.
Oh, you guys know that?
I think so. I think I read that.
Okay.
So you maybe
But
like
you
have
can
one?
for sure do one.
You can for sure
Could
do
you
one.
drop
So
it and then add a different one?
Oh.
So the other thing is I think you add them as a collaborator and then it shows up on your page and then once they approve it, then it shows up on both pages.
yeah, just approve it first, and you have to do it before you post it.
Yeah.
You cannot, once you post it, you cannot add a collaborator.
Oh, okay.
So it's like when in the process of making the post, you can add a collaborator and they can decline or accept it. Or then they can also remove themselves later on if they need to.
Have either of you done this?
Not yet actually.
Okay.
I use later to post for
Mhm.
our account and I don't know if you can do the collaborator feature on there. So that's.
You have to do it natively?
Yeah, I think so, which is kind of a pain, but I don't have a ton of posts where we want to do this, but it is kind of nice to bring more.
Well, it's hard to figure out about weddings, you have so many, you don't want to be
Yeah.
biased towards them.
Yeah, so typically I'm thinking about it for like events, like if we're doing an event with, so we did like a wildflower hike that was also with the Tahoe area Sierra group. And I posted the post to Eric, didn't collaborate before, and I was like, oh, I should have done that. So things like that, I'm aiming to try to do that more often.
Yeah, it's really good for events.
Mhm.
Yeah, like you give vendors and stuff at the events and they can share it too.
There you go. Oh, that's smart. Okay. Any other social media tips?
Well, kind of. In South Lake Tahoe, there's a Lake Tahoe collaboration group. You can talk better about it, Chelsea, because she's one of the co-leaders.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a network of community partners and businesses who are all invested in children and families in the community. And one of the ways that we are kind of spread each other's, news, updates, events. We have a kind of internal newsletter, and it's really, I think when you were talking about kind of key people, that's a great way to kind of get key
That's
people.
right on my list.
Yeah, those key people that can help spread that awareness and kind of spread your messaging. Yeah.
And they post all of our flyers and information. So at least it works for our little.
Exactly. Yeah.
Word of mouth
Yes.
is huge.
Pollination.
Yes. Yes.
Talk to us, Chelsea.
Yes, let's talk.
Yes. Connection.
Yeah.
We mentioned word of mouth, and that's
Mhm.
great because that leads us right into earned channels, which are where other folks talk about you. Influencer engagement, community influential. Great channels here. Visibility is like when you speak on a panel, you know. And when folks share your social media posts, that's technically earned. So the advantages of being mentioned on earned channels are that you increase your reach and your credibility in the community. Drawbacks include that especially with news coverage, it can take a lot of time to secure coverage, and you don't control the messaging. This is true with any earned channel. The messaging can be unpredictable, it can be misleading, it can be negative. So when you are working with partners or influencers, it's nice if you can provide them some copy sometimes. Here's some approved messaging points. Here's a graphic we like. Here are some parameters or something like that. So speaking of news coverage, here's what you should keep in mind. You want to stay connected to relevant news outlets and create a list of reporters who you see covering topics adjacent to your mission. These are the people who are going to be most likely to share your stories. When you have something to announce, draft a press release or media alert, share with these folks. It doesn't have to be long, doesn't have to be complicated, but you do want to make sure you are making it interesting. Make it timely, make it relevant. If you aren't telling the story in a way that is fascinating to the reporter, they're going to move on, right? So as an example, at the Sacramento Region Community Foundation, we recently launched a nonprofit capacity building program for leaders of color or fundraisers of color involved in Big Day of Giving. Now, we all know how exciting nonprofit capacity building programs are. but you might be surprised to hear some local reporters didn't really get it. So we uncovered interesting statistics to share with reporters. We organized visual opportunities. We put together talking points to make sure our staff was on message. And after some pitching and follow-up, sometimes you gotta follow up, we secured coverage in print, radio, and TV for this effort, which increases knowledge about the need in the community, increases knowledge about the effort, and about the foundation. So it's win-win-win. If you engage with media, please keep these tips in mind. Reporters want a quick, responsive, credible spokesperson. They want conversational quotes. Don't make anything too complicated. That sounds fake. Compelling data and visuals are good. You should practice your talking points, keep them short and simple, and animate your feelings to make it seem so exciting. Like turn it up to 11. Any questions about earned channels or ideas? We heard some great ones already.
I would say, like if you want for sharing social media, the social media toolkits, like you were talking about, accepted, or like a little blurb, write a couple different ones, because there's been times where, I mean, part of our mission is like sharing what other similar organizations are doing, and sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't have time to do that, but if they send over a toolkit, I'm like, okay, great, I can put this in on Saturday.
You're
for
like,
sure.
they're making
Makes
your
it
life
really
easier.
easy. Yeah, and
Because they're
so
for you.
we've done that a little bit, but it definitely really helps us share other people's stuff when they make it easy, so.
Yeah.
The toolkits are really valuable, but also they kind of take a long time to make, so.
Yeah. But it does help. You're right, you're right. I
But
love
we
when
launched
someone
the-
sends me something to post.
Yeah, like we launched the Take Care Sierra, which is like an expansion of Take Care Tahoe. And we had a decent amount of people use the toolkit that we made, so it was really helpful in like spreading the word when we launched it. So.
Great, great. Yeah, we do the same thing for Big Day Giving. We
Yeah,
try to
we use those a lot.
Okay,
Yes.
great. All right, so let's turn to paid channels, which are access fee and investment, although there are some pro bono free opportunities. Here are some common paid channels. Paid channels provide your nonprofit exposure and help you reach new audiences. They're so good for helping you reach new audiences. Drawbacks, they usually come with a price tag, which can be hefty, and we don't all have unlimited budgets. So there are some free options you can leverage. Google Ad Grant is a popular one. Folks use PSAs pretty frequently. But if your organization has clear goals that paid ads can help you achieve, and your owned channels, like your website and your social media, are in good shape, and you can dedicate some time to setting up ads and checking in on their performance, or engaging an expert to help you do that, you should start building a budget for digital advertising if you don't have one already. Do folks do paid digital, paid ads in some way? Yeah? Okay, good. Yeah. Do some folks not? Okay. Okay, then I'm speaking to you. You should start building a budget if you can. Even a modest one is good for to start some experimentation. Here's some data. Nonprofit ad spending was up 28% last year, so folks are finding it effective. Over half of nonprofit ads were focused on fundraising. A quarter were focused on growing brand awareness or topic education, and 15% aim to collect emails. So if you have any of those goals in mind, consider paid advertising. If you can, I'm gonna say start with $100 a month. What's your reaction? $100 a month. Sure. Okay, great. Carol? Oh yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, she's the head.
She's like, okay, great. It's enough to kind of do some experimenting and see if anything works. See if you find good outcomes and good results. So quickly to talk about three, and then track performance. Three common paid channels. First is search ads. These put your website in front of people who are actively looking for information about topics related to your work. If your goal is fundraising, research shows that search ads are the most effective bang for buck. But their scale can be limited because if not a lot of people are searching for information about your work, not a lot of people are going to see your ads, right? They also have limited storytelling capabilities. Look how dull this looks. But it's good to get ads in front of people who are looking for information about work you do. So Google offers a program that provides up to $10,000 a month in free search ads for nonprofits. Does anyone use the Google Ad Grant?
I have.
You have, yeah. We use it. These are ads from the Google Ad Grant. If you haven't already looked into it, there are some restrictions, but it's a good way to become familiar with the strategies and get, yeah.
Question about that. We were looking into it, and it was like, we haven't really had time. But we did meet with like a company that will kind of manage it for you because I know it can be kind of complicated. Do you do that kind of thing? Is that
Yeah.
foundation, or does someone know how to manage it on staff?
We had a company start us out, get us set up, and then we took it over because once it's set up, it kind of just runs passively. You've got to check in like every 90 days. You have to like literally sign into the program every 90 days.
So, but it's pretty manageable after setup.
After that initial investment, I do think since we started a few years ago, Google has taken pains to make the process a little more streamlined. I find it complicated. It's like, what's a campaign? What's an ad group? What's
Okay.
yeah, so I hear you on that. Next, social media ads. These get your message to your intended audience quickly with robust targeting and storytelling capabilities. Their reach is only limited by your budget. The social media ads are effective for generating awareness about your work, but people who encounter your social media ads and click to follow your pages or sign up for your emails can be nurtured into strong supporters over time. So it's about awareness into consideration rather than about immediate conversion. These are screenshots of old ads we placed on Instagram and Facebook. The process is super easy. You put some language in, give it a video or some photos, and they'll create the ads for you. You tell it who you want to target, what platforms you want it to go on. You can target based on geography. There's so many good tools. So, any questions about social media ads? Anyone considering it or have had good success?
I mean, whenever I'm on social media, I tend to just skip past them.
Yeah.
Do you
You're
feel
like ad fatigue.
Yeah, like even if it's just an account, I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to see that. Do you feel like it actually really does help grow a following?
We've had some success using ads for Big Day of Giving in particular to get folks to the website, to get folks making donations. So especially if you can somehow track the performance of your ads, that would be my recommendation, is to see what value it is for you and to set up ads that you can track in particular. But I would say it depends on the campaign, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's for us, it's good for events, promoting events, especially if it's like the pictures, really popped out.
Yeah.
However, for fundraising, like I've heard it's also a turn off. Like some people just like don't want to see that for fundraising.
Yeah.
They want to like fundraise to places that they really have interest in.
Right.
So I've seen it's a turn off for fundraising at times, but if it's like a big event or a big day, I can see the benefits.
Yeah.
But for consistent fundraising, I'm not sure.
Right.
But for events, it's really, really good.
Yeah, it's about growing awareness, planting seeds. I wouldn't invest in social media ads if you're like, I'm running a fundraising campaign right now and I'm relying on social media ads to meet my goals. Probably not going to be as effective.
Yeah, we're going to talk about KPIs, key performance indicators, which will help you figure out if it's a good investment for you or not.
Yeah. All right, last we focused on digital advertising for the most part of this discussion, but if you want to get your ads where your audiences are, and not all of your audiences that we've discussed are on digital platforms, you can consider old school outreach. You can buy ads on TV and in media, other media types. I've had some good luck with getting PSAs on radio, so I've just mentioned that here. These take advantage of traditional advertising tactics without the cost if you place public service announcements. The gist is you just got to reach out to channels with a lot of lead time, get their guidelines, and make your PSAs announcements as generally interesting to the public as possible. So this is when we placed on iHeart stations to promote the scholarships we offer to area students.
I don't know how much you know about our area, but we have a one-day-a-week paper. I love Paula, but I call it like she copies and pastes whatever you give her.
Yeah.
So we have that.
Oh, perfect.
So we have that outlet.
Yeah.
And then we also have kind of a once a month, very pick and choose whatever they want kind of paper. And so I really think radio is actually one of the best ways
Oh, good.
that we can get out the word here in town. Because everyone drives their car.
Yeah.
Everyone's driving somewhere with Carol. They'll hear about things over and over again. Because we only have about 2-3 radio stations, so that's also valuable.
Yeah, have you done PSAs or other?
I do a lot,
online
yeah.
ads?
I still hear my own PSAs from Barton, but they're still playing. I did it more with Barton
Oh, okay.
than I did with.
They must have been really.
At Boys and Girls Club, we've established a really good relationship where he's actually given us a lot of free airtime
Oh, great.
for interviews and for PSAs.
Yeah, that relationship building.
But even honestly, the cost of paid is very fair.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
Yeah, it's not that bad, and especially then if you ask for a little bit of bonus, you ask
Because
for
we don't
a little
even
bit
get,
extra.
no, right, we don't get KCRA now, it's a Sacramento affiliate for paper news. Reno's are hit or miss, and then
Oh,
there's
I
a
see.
local station, but that's not really local. So
Oh, okay.
it's
All right,
a very
landscape,
different scene than
landscape,
traditional
yeah.
media.
I appreciate that, yeah.
So that's my pitch for Reno.
Yay radio. Any other thoughts about earned or paid or owned media channels? Allison's going to talk about KPIs and content.
I am. All right. Where's it at? Whenever I sit down with a new client, like this happened recently, and they're like, we want to do more social. And I was like, cool, what does that mean? Just more, do more, make it better, do more better. And it's like, well, how are you gonna know that we did it? Whatever it is, if you're like, I want more donors, but I want people to know who we are. I want to make a difference. You know, we get into this with our programs, right? Like define success. How do you know you did it? And the same applies for marketing. How do you know that you achieved success? So assign at least one or more KPI as a key performance indicator. It's just like a fancy word for a very simple thing. For each tactic, each thing you're going to do. These are ways you can track and measure your progress, your success. So like, here are some examples of possible KPIs for various channels, various activities. It can be dollars raised. It can be how many clicks we wanted on this ad. It can be how much I wanted my email list to grow. I want at least one interview this fiscal year, one radio interview. That's my outcome from this project I'm doing. I want to increase my social likes. So those are, you're assigning these metrics. What's the outcome you're looking for? So it can be, I feel, a hard thing for people to define, to put their finger on. It's okay if it's an imperfect number. If you said, I want to increase social media likes by 15%, and the end of the year comes and you hit 5% increase and you feel really good about it, that might have actually been what the KPI you should have set at the beginning, right? Like we're often just kind of making up numbers. And the next year, now you know next year what your KPI should be, kind of like what amount of growth actually felt really good. So for example, that same client, when they were like, increase, and we really dove in on what that meant, they realized they actually were excited if we increased at all. They were like, we've been really stagnant, so if your efforts have any more people, if we sell any more tickets to this event, basically any improvement is good to us, because otherwise we're not getting anywhere. So I was like, okay, fair. So that is our metric. +1, that is like any more. So it can be simple, but yeah, just think about what will feel good to me. How will I know that I did what I wanted to do? Any questions about setting a KPI for yourself? Putting it all together is what content are we going now to put out into the world? As you begin to create your actual content, you're going to want to refer back to all the planning and strategizing that we've done. We're trying not to throw spaghetti at the wall, which is what, I don't know about you, but that is what I feel so many. I was a development director and like tasked with make it go viral and like do all these things and with no money and just one person. And you're just like, do it, get it done. So we want to avoid wasting our time, our money, our precious resources, harness, direct that energy. Does the content align with the goals? Is it going to appeal to my audience? Does it work on this channel? Just thinking, asking yourself those questions, great place to start. A mistake in my slides that I sent him. The 80-20 rule. This is one of my favorite things to think about. that I feel like I've often been guilty of treating my organization's social media like a billboard, right? For myself, for not me, for the organization. We're like, here's an event, here's a give to this thing, come to this thing. And it's not actually very interesting for people. And so my audience tunes out. I don't know if any of y'all, have you had this experience?
Yes.
You're like, yeah, it's not effective. And so that's when then I learned that marketers are like, actually only about a fifth, 20% of your content should be that self-promotion, give or take, not hard and fast. That's 1 out of every 5 posts should be your event promotion, your fundraising appeal, a call for volunteers. So yeah, if you're only emailing your mailing list when you're asking for money, the open rates are not going to be that great. So what else then? You're like, great, Allison, what else what's the other 80%? I'm going to call it the 3 E's. When you're not self-promoting, you're going to be educating, entertaining, or engaging. This all depends on your brand, right? So a DV organization is not generally entertaining, obviously maybe. Someone doing homeless advocacy also, like things like that. You're not seeking to be fun and funny the way that maybe an arts organization or Mittens for Kittens, they can be real cute. But, so not every organization can lean into the E, the middle E of entertain, and that is okay. Others might be able to do memes, comedy, and games are entertaining, right? That might work for your brand. So if not, just ignore it. But educate, everyone's brand can fit in with educate in some way. Audiences really like this. They might be coming to you to look to you for the expert on your subject matter, on what's defining the issue for them, really, connecting the dots. Maybe it's policy, maybe it's advocacy. You're allowed to do some of that. Maybe it makes sense for you. Maybe we all know we can't advocate for, elected officials. We can't promote, people running for office, but you can promote issues. You can share blog posts. You can, really get into educating. You might be able to entertain. Engage is content that you're looking to elicit a reaction from your audience. That can be literally poll surveys, questions. You post what's your favorite breakfast item? If maybe you run a cooking nonprofit, that's a fun question. It can also just be designed to start a conversation about a topic that you're working on. It can be the sort of take a picture of this in your community and share it, send it to post it here. That kind of anything that's really getting people to engage back with your page and your content. Or if it's over email, it's a do a thing, take an action. So in some, remember, particularly in digital marketing, your audience is reading and following you to learn, to be a part of something, to connect with you, or to be amused or delighted or have a good time and chill out. If you can give some steady content that's doing some of that, the other 20% is going to just be a lot more effective. And if that's not 80-20, that's all right. If right now you're doing 99% self-promotion, just shift it a little bit. Add in, think about a couple things.
Oh, sorry. Interrupt that. Just for agencies violence-free TV agencies, you mentioned that entertain is probably not going to be as applicable to us. Do you have any other suggestions of what else might be able to kind of fit in instead of that? Or any other ideas?
Let's see. You can provide resources, right? I'm sure you already do some of that. You probably do campaigns that are building safety in your community. People probably turn to you to learn not just how can I access DV resources in my community, but how can I just have a better relationship? What is a healthy relationship? I've seen cute memes about that. That can be kind of even bringing in a little bit of more lightness too. That's talking. I used to work for the California Partnership to End Domestic Violence with Jessica. It was the development there. So and we did a lot of those, and you can share that. So that's kind of an idea. Or I see Weave does that in Sacramento. Does a good job with their.
Or who's your staff are and the little facts about them and your board.
That
getting
too.
to know them and the faces of your organization.
Behind the scenes, absolutely.
Or thinking if there's fun community events that you would want to help out them to support.
And the collaboration piece, you know,
Yeah.
lifting up each other too. So that was, I really get the sense that this part of Tahoe is very collaborative, very, like, you all know each other. So sharing out what each other is doing is another great way to shift that 80-20 too. If you feel like, I don't know what else to post, just see what someone else is doing and literally share or add it to your newsletter. Yeah. Anyone else have a question about what's the other 80%? But yeah, it's the most common question is like, we don't have cute kittens. What do we do?
Exactly. Yes,
I
yes.
guess I kind of have a question. 'Cause
Yeah.
on the entertainment, cute kittens. I thought of children, like we find like they're capturing their joy, but how you can't really sharing children's faces
Yes.
on social media. So like, how do we
Do you do
try to give
permission
them back?
slips?
Or well, we go into every school and I kind of
Schools
footage?
usually have a permission thing.
usually they do. So I could. That's my. We try to just kind of make it like you can't really tell who the kid is or
Yes.
the back
That's
of the
one
whole
strategy. Yeah.
auditorium or. That's kind of like tricky, but that's kind of what I was writing down. Like, how do we show the parents the joy these kids are having from what we bring in to get them to come to the public?
Right.
Yeah.
We've had
Right.
school secretaries take their own children out who don't care. I mean, they've given us permission to do that, and they say, oh, put my kids on there,
Yeah.
so you don't have to get random kids. I don't know, what's gonna
Yeah, you can like have them point out to you who you get a
Right.
picture
Yeah.
of. Or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
do, staff members.
Yeah.
One of the
Those are all
things
good.
about,
Well, I have one idea too, which is to create an event that is to get photography too. That's another, like, make a photo shoot. So that's another.
Yes.
And then get, so you have all the content that you can use at your disposal. So you reach out and you're like, I would like people who want their children to be a part of this. Everyone present gives consent, sign consent, get video, get photos, get a bunch of fun stuff that you can use for 5 years.
And so a lot of the Tahoe stock photos I see
Yeah.
been repurposed
Oh,
so many different
yes.
places.
But yeah, so that's another.
Okay, you're like
great
building
ideas.
your library.
What was your question?
no, I was just gonna add, when I was thinking about Chelsea's
Yes.
question, one of the things that I have found that people like, and it's more of engaging them, is not about our own organization, but like if you put out data that is true of the community, like we often state how many children are on free and reduced
Right.
lunch. And it's not about our organization,
Right.
but this is the number of children in our community that really don't have, perhaps might not have access to nutritional food on the weekends. It's not about us, it's
Right.
about the community.
Great.
And people are always shocked. Like,
Right.
I would be shocked to know your numbers.
Right,
Or
absolutely.
if you surveyed this, if you have those stats, how many
Absolutely.
people
Right.
have some contact with
So that's
domestic?
the educate piece, yeah. So
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
defining the problem
That's
in your
great.
community, sharing that. So
Mhm.
you can think of this in like buckets of, you know, what could fit into the educate component for my organization. What are we experts on that people might want to hear about? Why might they turn to us? And then entertain. Is there something in there? Could I do a little fun game or something? Is there just like a meme? Sometimes it's just like little moments. It's like, do you remember like the Bernie Sanders moment where he was like sitting in the mittens thing? Is like everyone was photoshopping it. I know this is totally stupid, but you know, it's like, so I just photoshopped him into like my office, and you know, just little tiny things like that. And that got like so much more people like shared it. And they're like, this is so
interesting.
it's so stupid. But yeah, if you can kind of get on those moments, that can be really fun.
Yeah.
So we will.
Hello. Hey, vending machines don't work, cafeteria's out of order, food truck's gone.
I'm sorry.
Until food's figured out, we're
You
just
are
gonna keep
so
going.
resourceful.
I just want to say it.
Oh, I know.
I can hear it.
Right.
want to take anything home.
That's bold.
Yeah, right. You said it.
Email me
So funny.
So many free things in college. Bizarre.
Right?
Yeah.
You're joining all the
All right,
clubs.
bring it back. I'm almost done with the content part. So one of the biggest things that we want to share is our stories, our impact stories, sharing The power of storytelling. Stories light up our brains. We respond. Stories give us rewards. When we hear a story, we get this dopamine, little hits of rewards. We get oxytocin because we feel empathetic and we remember them. It's awesome. Stories make meaning. So 3 things. Storytelling could be a whole masterclass that I have given a workshop on it. But in brief, put systems in place to collect those stories. Do you already have maybe like databases of stories? Maybe not. How are we collecting stories from the field, from our constituents? Ethically as well, collect them ethically. Consent. It's beyond consent. It's also about respecting how the audience likes to be referred to. How do they want to talk about themselves? What language? Survivors versus victims, right, is always a thing in TV, for example. Some people hate Survivor as well in a story, right? Like that might be the brand voice, and then a specific Survivor is like, don't talk about me that way. So you have to respect that, I think. And a good story has structure. There's often a transformation of how they interacted with your organization and how this person might have changed through that. And avoiding the savior complex stuff is part of the ethics, but there should still be like, you are a part of this, right? That's why you're sharing it. Like, you two work together and something cool happened for this person. And then what do you do with your stories? Disseminate them. There's a whole bunch of different ways. So there might be video interview story. It could be a short form, a little like brief little Instagram reel can be one way. Lives. I think going live on social media is a fun way sometimes to get stories out there. You can bring a person on to do a live with them. Photo essay, that's one fun visual way to do a story about somebody. Direct mail, that's really traditional. You're using the narrative copy, maybe a single photo. Interview on radio or TV. You can either tell their story, and you can use that story in an interview, or have your person on to tell their own story. And social media, of course. But lots of ways, and that brings us into, you don't have to start from scratch all the time. I'm always recycling my content. Take a thing and chop it up and do it in a different way. And you have a long video, you make it shorter, little bits and clips, and you turn the video into a narrative piece. And you know, one nice piece of content can become a bunch of different things. So